Welcome everybody to my Final Fantasy XIV Iceberg video. This isn't really based on any existing Iceberg, so this is just going to be stuff that I've picked up on as a member of the community. If you don't know how Iceberg videos work, basically we start with the more widely known facts about the topic, and then slowly descend deeper down the iceberg where I'll cover some of the more obscure trivia that not everyone might know. Also, there may be some spoilers in this video, but if you're totally new to the game, then you'll have zero context for any of this anyways, so it shouldn't matter too much. With that explained, I don't want to waste anyone's time, so let's get into the iceberg. Critically acclaimed MMO. So this is actually a meme in the community that supposedly started when some commercials were uploaded to the Final Fantasy XIV YouTube channel.
You know what free trial doesn't suck? Final Fantasy XIV Online. Final Fantasy XIV, you'll get over 100 hours of awesome gameplay for free.
The message of the meme eventually got boiled down to a quote when the official Twitter account tweeted this: "Have you tried the expanded free trial of our critically acclaimed MMORPG, Final Fantasy XIV? You could play through the entirety of A Realm Reborn and the award-winning Heavensward expansion up to level 60 for free with no restrictions on playtime." The quote sort of speaks for itself. It became used as a meme usually, as an out-of-left-field joke where someone really just wants you to play the game, but you were expecting them to say something completely different. It's very possible that the meme even had a positive influence on the sales of the game, so it pretty much worked in everyone's favor. Floor tank. The floor tank meme refers to the Dragoon job and how Dragoons, mostly in the past, were known to die a lot. This would leave a Dragoon player laying on the floor while everyone else fought the boss. People who play Dragoon have pointed out that the job is much more forgiving these days, but in the past, Dragoons apparently had much weaker magic defense, as well as attack animations that players were locked into, making it so they couldn't avoid AoE attacks as easily. Part of that is probably also them backflipping off of the level. The point being that Dragoons used to spend a lot of the time laying on the floor because they died a lot. Healer queues. Healer queues are simply the well-known fact that healers get very low queue times compared to other jobs in the game, especially DPS. While a monk might have to wait 10 to 15 minutes to get into a specific dungeon, a white mage can probably get in instantly after pressing the search button. It's just a well-known meme in the community that healers like to brag about. Although, ever since the addition of Sage and Endwalker, the queue time has gotten a little less impressive since the healing role is now more saturated. Regardless, as someone who no longer mains white mage, I do miss the queues. Pray return to the Waking Sands. Pray return to the Waking Sands is an exact quote commonly said by Minfilia. During A Realm Reborn, which is the base game, you'll join forces with the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, a secret organization whose headquarters are called the Waking Sands. Their base is located in Vesper Bay, which doesn't have an aetheryte to teleport to. So every time players have to return to the Waking Sands, they have to first teleport to Horizon and then run all the way to Vesper Bay. A Realm Reborn is known for being a bit tedious, so having to do several fetch quests and then run all the way back to the base over and over again became a miserable experience for players. Eventually the developers did add teleport tickets that take the player right to the Waking Sands, which was nice, but you do have a limited amount. The Devastation of Praetorium. Praetorium is a dungeon at the end of A Realm Reborn. This dungeon is infamous for two things, one being that it is not friendly for new players. All experienced players will run to the end of the level as fast as they possibly can and skip sections of the dungeon because a lot of it isn't necessary to complete it. This leaves new players struggling to keep up, which usually results in them dying or getting completely lost. This dungeon is also known for being tedious. It's one of the few dungeons that's actually in the main scenario roulette, so veteran players often find themselves having to play it again and again, and most people don't like doing this since Praetorium is a very long and not very fun dungeon filled with several unskippable cutscenes. Because so many players have seen these cutscenes, some of the lines have even turned into memes themselves. Gaius, for example, after realizing he caused so much devastation despite that not being his intention, will say,
"Such devastation! This was not my intention!"
Players will even sometimes type in the chat box different jokes just because they know what Gaius is going to say before he says it. Lahi. Lahi is a meme that came from the Final Fantasy XIV Digital Fan Festival in 2021. Masayoshi Soken, the game's lead composer behind the music, went up on stage to play a song from the game. This one here. What people didn't expect was that he would purposely play an interesting cover of that song live on stream as a joke. I don't think I need to explain why this became a meme in the community. Urianger's Dialect. Urianger, or more specifically his dialect, has become yet another meme in the community. You can find memes out there that like to take Urianger's dialect and apply it to different quotes, one of which his voice actor actually provided on.
Mine milkshake bringeth all yon gentlefolk to mine yard, and lo, they reply, "'Tis better than thine. Verily, 'tis better than thine."
All Lalafell are evil. It is a commonly held belief in the community that all Lalafell are actually very sinister. It's their cute, chubby little looks that are meant to deceive you, but in reality, they're all violent and sadistic little creatures that are only happy when they can cause immense suffering. There isn't actually any concrete proof of this in the game though, so I think it just goes to show that most Final Fantasy fans are just racist. The Great Goobbue Wall. The Great Goobbue Wall refers to an event from the original version of the game. For those that don't know, the original Final Fantasy XIV was actually a very flawed MMO that didn't do well at launch. Despite this, the developers didn't give up and actually worked really hard to launch a completely new version of the game called A Realm Reborn. The old version was going to be shut down forever, so they made it a part of the lore in-game. Over time, Dalamud, the second moon that orbited the planet, turned red, and players could see it getting bigger over time in the world. This was all built up to an apocalyptic event in the game where Dalamud was going to unleash Bahamut, a creature capable of immense destruction. This brought on what is called the 7th Umbral Calamity. During this, players formed the Goobbue Wall by mounting Goobbues, a large, creepy, wiggly-armed creature that I actually love, and defended the city of Ul'dah. Low Poly Grapes. Low Poly Grapes comes from an Endwalker meme featuring very low polygon grapes. In Labyrinthos, players can find very undetailed grapes being grown that look very unnaturally shaped. They are kind of ugly, but also kind of cute and mostly funny, I think, and so people really ended up liking them. They were all over the place, the low poly grapes, as well as the sad follow-up memes when the grapes were eventually patched out to look a little more natural, and so that had maybe a month-long life cycle as a meme, but it was pretty prevalent for its time. Mami Y'shtola. Okay, so Mami Y'shtola comes from yet another meme in the community. Based on a couple of lines of dialogue and a general sassy attitude, the character Y'shtola has now come to be called Mommy by players. Y'shtola tells the player that they need to rest, to which the player can reply with a "Yes, mother," to which Y'shtola will reply, "Ha, none of that cheek or I will take you across my knee." So, because of this, a bunch of Y'shtola simps, and by that I mean 80% of the audience, took to jokingly calling her Mommy. Or unironically calling her, I don't know. Some people are horny, some people it's a joke, I don't know. Basically, this meme with Y'shtola gained enough traction that the developers even took notice of it on one of their live streams.
もう全ての言語でみんなママとかマミーとか言ってますけど、僕は一言も言ってないですからね。
I see a lot of people commenting mama or mommy, and you know, I have never said that about her. I'm
Emet Selch's familiar. The Shoebill minion can be found at a few spots in the game, including the player's private chambers and Shadowbringers, where it'll stare at you, basically. The theory suggests that this Shoebill is Emet's familiar and that he has ordered it to follow you around so he can keep tabs on you. There's text in the game you can read if you have a Shoebill minion that states, "Summon your Shoebill minion, an unflappable bird possessed of a regal air, or perhaps simply a condescending one." Who do we know is theatrical and also condescending? Emet Selch. Who do we know is grumpy and likes to frown a lot? Emet Selch. Just the fact that we know Emet Selch watches us from afar and usually knows what we're up to would also make it very plausible. I personally choose to believe in the theory because I think it works, and it's simply fun. Starting in Shadowbringers, players have the option to run dungeons and trials with the Scions as NPCs rather than with actual players. Every character in a trust is designed with a personality that dictates how they'll handle fights. We'll use this example here, where the enemy tunnels underground to use a sneak attack. Thancred, who's the stealth specialist, immediately sees what it's doing and moves to avoid the attack. Alize, not one for complicated strategies, attacks wildly, hoping that she'll hit it before eventually running over to Thancred when that fails. Alphino will take his time to observe the footprints before slowly piecing it together and running to the safe spot just in time. I think that's a really cool feature that I didn't even notice. The backwards poster. The backwards poster simply refers to the poster in Urianger's room that is accidentally flipped, leaving the elements in the wrong order. The poster later went up as a housing item players could buy, but it was still backwards. Eventually developers did fix it, but it was broken for a little while. The first parallels the source. This is another thing that took me a while to actually realize, but in hindsight it is pretty obvious. During Shadowbringers, players travel to a place called the First, which is like an alternate version of our world, kind of like a mirror. If you look at both maps, it becomes very clear that the locations in Shadowbringers are counterparts to those in the source. The source being the main world we're from, for people who don't know. Amarang is Ul'dah, Rak'tika Greatwood is Gridania, Yulmore is Limsa-Lominsa, and Ilmeg is actually Ishgard. The Ishgard example becomes a bit more obvious when you look at the original version of the game, because that area used to not have any snow. It's also believed that in Shadowbringers, because of this, you actually do return to the Waking Sands. This is Thancred. This is Thancred is a meme that comes from a segment where you actually play as Thancred. Your goal as Thancred is to place explosives while being stealthy. After you've done that, Thancred will report in on the link shell saying, "This is Thancred, the explosives are in place." Some people believe this is a reference to Metal Gear Solid, where the main character will often say on the radio, "This is Snake." Either way, it became a meme for some reason, and it gave us this wonderful video, so fine by me.
I owe you one. Are you all right? You're going this asshole. Right.
Crystarium tech demo. The Crystarium tech demo, just as it sounds, was a tech demo from E3 back in 2005, showing off a possible design for Limsa-Lominsa. In the end, they ended up going with the design, so they tossed it to the side, and we got the pirate city we know today as Limsa-Lominsa. Several years later, the team was considering ideas for the hub city for Shadowbringers when someone showed Yoshi P the tech demo. They used it as direct inspiration for the Crystarium we all know and love today. Romance paths. Romance paths prominently started being an idea in 2014 when the developers posted an April Fool's article discussing a favor system. This would allow the player to earn favor with their favorite characters by going out on dates with them and just hanging out. They even made fake screenshots to show you going on dates and what it might be like. It was just an April Fool's joke, but Yoshi P has stated in an interview that he's looked for ways of doing it. Because it's a live service game, he believes it would stunt the growth of the characters and make it harder to write them into the story, since what if somebody wants to romance Urianger, but the story needs him to be in a completely different location? That would make it difficult. Hot Vothri. Me and a lot of people grew up watching SpongeBob to the point where we can reference stuff pretty easily. For example, Wumbo, Pinhead, Imagination, Weast, My Leg, Weenie Hut Jr., Oh Boy 3AM, Freeform Jazz, Owner of the White Sedan, Look I'm Texas, Who'll Put You on the Planet, Chocolate, What Color's My Underwear, Core Blue Number 5, Hashling Slasher, Without Any Milk, Not My Wallet, Anti-Sea Bear Circle, No This Is Patrick, The Magic Conch, Leedle Leedle Leedle, Humana Humana Humana, Bee Boo Boo Bop, Bee Boo Bop, and eventually you'll reach Oh No, He's Hot.
Don't be intimidated, Squidward. Try to imagine him in his underwear. Oh no, he's hot!
Without fail, every single time I've ever done this fight, somebody in chat will type, "Oh no, he's hot," when he transforms. So, I'm gonna consider it a pretty prominent meme in the community. Viera Voice number 7. Viera Voice 7 refers to the 7th voice option you can choose during character creation for your Viera. When they first added Viera to the game as a playable race, voice number 7 sounded like this. Many people said it sounds like a grandma having an orgasm, and so eventually it was updated to not sound like that. Ghost of Edda. The origins of the Ghost of Edda start with an early level dungeon called Sestasha. When you first arrive at the dungeon, you'll see a group of adventurers waiting outside. If you talk to them, they'll have dialogue that makes it clear that they don't care for one member in particular, named Edda. The members of the group will consistently talk down to her and mock her here and when you see them later at Tamtar Deepcroft. Eventually, you'll see them back in Gridania missing their tank, who perished due to Edda not being able to heal him successfully. And the group disbands, and that leaves Edda all alone with the leftover trauma of what happened on that day. Eventually, you can encounter Payo. He was the Lalafell in the group, who says he received a wedding invitation from Edda. It says the ceremony will be held in the same dungeon where their teammate was slaughtered. This unlocks a harder version of the dungeon that's a bit different than last time. Eventually, you'll find Edda looking a lot more creepy than last time, and now the demonic floating head of their tank of air. You end up defeating Edda and leaving the dungeon with Payo, but not before getting one last scare on the way out from a now deceased Edda. And an even lesser known fact about this quest is that now the ghost of Edda can sometimes be seen standing in Gridania before quickly disappearing. It's a really creepy little detail in the game that really sells the whole quest line. Aenor Cockburne. Okay, Aenor Cockburne is an NPC usually found in Mordona. If you talk to her throughout the game, as well as a few others, you'll eventually piece together a story that's been happening all the way from A Realm Reborn to the end of Endwalker, so it's been going on for a while. Aenor will reveal that she has a thing for Ocher Boulder, one of the Boulder brothers. At one point, you'll even find Aenor talking about it with her sister Clemens, to which she'll reply, "Aenor, you cannot be serious. He must be 3 times your size. I mean, how would you even... Surely you haven't. But I don't understand. I was the healer on those expeditions. How could she have... Oh gods, I was sleeping less than 10 fulms away. I have no sister." All of this eventually culminates in Aenor admitting that she also loves the other Boulder brother, Hori, and that she wants to be with both of them. Basically, she wants to get Eiffel Towered by both brothers at the same time, and don't look up what that means, I guess, unless you're horny. If you're horny, okay, then look it up. And that interesting little ending puts us at our outro. If you're a longtime player, most of this probably didn't surprise you, but I hope if you're new or considering playing the game that this made you somewhat interested. I hope you enjoyed the Iceberg video, and I hope that you eventually join our weird, lovely little community in Final Fantasy XIV. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.